Well, since we had the day off on Monday, we decided that we are going to look at the Angels April in review. That means we have to look at the good and the bad and the ugly. So it's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And John and I thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And the best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's show is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Hey, thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, aka the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
You're here with the #1 daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. We're here Monday through Friday talking Angels baseball with you every single weekday, and we're happy to be here with you. Of course, on today's show, we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this past month regarding the Angels April. And there's a lot of good, there's some bad, and there's some ugly. And Mike, we've got something to share with our listeners and our viewers that they're going to want to stick around for regarding decision-making with this team.
Yeah.
Phil Nevin's ability to manage. Look, we're not TMZ, but we don't do this very often. But when we have highly regarded sources, we're going to share the information that we can with you. So stick around. That's going to be in the ugly segment. But Mike, we got to talk about the good. There's some good here, right?
Absolutely. And the good, always have to start with the unicorn, Shohei Ohtani.
That's right.
He's pitched really well so far in April, John. We've talked about him being the Cy Young potential for this year. I mean, the guy's already got an MVP. Why not get a Cy Young? Why not get both, right?
Right.
And it seems like he's working for that Cy Young. He's 4-0, a 1.85 ERA. Johnny, 46 strikeouts so far this season. He's got an ERA plus of 2.48. So that means that he's 148% better than league average.
Woo.
And then his whip, John, is 0.8. 0.8,
That's
John.
right.
That's walks and hits per innings pitched. Just unbelievable. And then, oh, by the way, he is a hitter.
That's right.
124 plate appearances, 32 hits, 4 doubles. He's got 1 triple, 7 home runs. That 1 home run in Milwaukee was incredible.
The moonshot.
18 RBIs, 5 stolen bases. John, look at this slash line. 294, 355, 541, 897 for his OPS. He's got a 144 OPS plus, which means that he's 44% better than league average. So he's 148% better than league average pitcher, and he's 44% better than league average hitting. I mean, what an incredible guy, right? And
Absolutely.
The new schedule is really working for Ohtani. Ohtani goes every 6 days rather than every 6th start. And he had a 0.6 ERA after 5 starts, including the 2-inning start in Boston. He did give up those 5 runs against Oakland, and that bumped his ERA up to a whopping 185, but almost hitting the cycle. What an incredible April for this guy. He's a part of the good that has taken place so far for the Angels this season.
And you can't have good without Ohtani, and you can't have good without Mike Trout. Both of these guys are crucial to this Halo team. Listen to this, 124 plate appearances for Mike Trout, 20 runs scored, 33 hits, 9 doubles, Mike, 7 home runs, and 18 RBIs. That's good for a 308 average, a 395 on base percentage, 589 slugging, and a 984 OPS. Mike, he has a 168 OPS plus. That means he is 68% better than league average. Mike, the key here for Mike Trout is that he's been healthy. He's only sat 2 games so far, and we need him in this lineup every single day to contribute. And so that is a significant factor of what's good about this team in April so far.
Let's talk about the new guys. They've been good. Gio Urshela, he's been very versatile for the Angels. He's played all over the field. He's moving runners And I love that, making contact, which is something we talked about on yesterday's show. When there's runners on, move them over. And Gio Urshela has actually done that and done that well. He has 29 hits, a 299 average, 12 RBIs. He's outpacing his RBI total from 2022. Then there's Hunter Renfroe, John, leading the team with 20 RBIs. He's the cleanup hitter that we have needed for so many years. Remember Jose Bautista from was it Jose Bautista? Was that our left fielder? Am I saying his name wrong?
No, not Jose Bautista.
Jose, the left fielder that we had.
Guillen?
Thank you. Jose Guillen, right? He reminds me a lot of Jose Guillen. When Jose Guillen came in, it was the bat that we needed in the lineup. And Hunter Renfroe is that guy. Jose Bautista is really good too. Never played for the Angels. He's been the cleanup hitter we needed. And his right field defense, John, has been great. He's got a 2.1 ultimate zone rating. And so really great to have him out in the outfield. John, talk about your boy, Brandon Drury.
Yeah, he's heating up, Mike. He started out pretty slow, but then he was able to find his bat over that A's series. 4 home runs over that series, 12 RBIs. Love him at second, love him at first base. Got better defensively. I know that he had some struggles at first there for a while. There was a play at second base where he nearly ran out and ran into Mike Trout trying to make a play very early on. It was like, hey, dude, let Trout do his job. It's fine. So great to see him be versatile out there, and also expecting to have the bat that we signed. Really, it's coming around. Mike, I love the addition of Matt Moore in the bullpen. 14 1/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 14 strikeouts, 5 walks. And this is good because he did have a lot of walks out of the pen last year, but so far he's outpacing and overperforming in terms of the walks he's issued compared to last year in Texas. Then, Mike, Carlos Estevez, 13 2/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 16 strikeouts, 6 walks, and 6 saves. Give that boy the closer job. We're going to talk about him later on because it's crucial to that Phil Nevin decision-making conversation.
And he wants the closer job.
And he wants that job, exactly. How about Zach Neto, Mike?
John, I love this call-up. We were struggling on defense. We needed a change. And then April 15th came around. Not only was it tax day, but it was Zach Neto day. And he got called up. They were in Boston. Johnny, he has been really great. 83rd percentile in outs above average, according to Baseball Savant. 87.2% contact in the zone, and only a 15.9 chase percentage. Eye test, outside of those stats, eye test affirms that. When you watch him play, he is not chasing pitches. He is actually doing a heck of a job in getting on base. Unfortunately, it's been through getting hit by pitch instead of just drawing walks, right? But hey, he's a kid. He's out there playing. He's ready to go. He's in the 70th percentile in max exit velocity, the 75th percentile in speed. He's got his plus range, plus errors prevented. It's 0.8 ultimate zone rating. The guy has just been an improvement across the board, and his offensive numbers will come. And so if you look at his stat line right now, it may not be super impressive, but it's been impressive to see somebody who was in college ball at this time last year, now playing in the major leagues at shortstop for this team in LA.
Look, I'm going to give you this one because he's your boy. So get that drink of water so you can talk about Chase Silseth now.
I love Chase Silseth. I love him in the pen. I know that he's been a starter and kind of projected as a starter, but so far, John, he's hitting 98 on the fastball. He is that future starter, but I think he's in a role right now that he is fulfilling, and I think he can continue to fulfill it all season long. Kind of feels like Scott Shields from the early 2000 days, right?
Yeah.
And then, John, at the end of this rotation, there were a lot of questions, and the guy that we had a lot of questions about was Griffin Canning, and suddenly Griffin Canning looks fantastic for us, doesn't he?
He absolutely does. He's 1-0 so far. He's pitching for the big league club for the first time since July of 2021. Mike, he looks like a different pitcher. He's outperforming his previous years in terms of the effectiveness of his pitches and the results that he's getting. So he's upped his velocity, which is great to see as well. So Griffin Canning has been a nice win and part of the good that's happened so far in April. And then the record. I got to say, despite all the bad decisions, the close games, the errors, the miscues, the blow pen, Mike, we're 15-14 coming out of April.
Doesn't feel like it.
I know. And if you go back to previous years, look, they're 14-13 the last time they made the playoffs after April in 2014. Mike, in 2012, they actually had a better record than the Tigers, but they didn't get into the playoffs to get the wild card spot. And a lot of that had to do with the 8-15 hole that they dug themselves in
That's right.
coming out of April in
They were
2012.
terrible in April.
Mike, 2009, 9-12, 2007, another playoff year. They were 15-11. Look, they were 500 or better the rest of the way. In fact, they only had one 500 month in July that year. And then 2005, 13-11. So that is encouraging that they're 15-14 right now. Mike, they're winning series against the teams they should be winning series against. The A's, they took 2 out of 3 to start the season. The Mariners, 2 out of 3. Nationals, 2 out of 3. Royals, 2 out of 3. And then the A's again, 2 out of 3. And most importantly, so far, they're winning against the AL West.
Yeah.
And now I do see that we have challenges coming in the form of the Astros and the Rangers, who are off to a hot start. So it's important that the Angels continue to beat AL West teams as the season progresses. Now, they're not going to be playing the AL West this coming evening because they're starting a 3-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals tonight at 4:45 Pacific time. Patrick Sandoval is on the mound. He's looking for a second straight win. You can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you have to do is search Angels. And coming up on Locked On Angels, we're going to talk about the bad, we're going to talk about the ugly, and we're going to talk about the decision-making around the Halos coming up.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by the Game Time app. This is a great app, especially if you're looking not just for baseball tickets, but any sort of last-minute tickets. You can get tickets to all sorts of musical events, comedy, theaters, and it's fast and easy. You can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. You can see the images of where your seats are at so that when you do buy and then show up, you know where you need to go. That's always confusing when you show up and, hey, where am I sitting? What does it look like, right? And so it's nice to know where the seats are and what your view will be. Discover the lowest price guarantee and even get event cancellation protection. Tickets are sent directly to your phone. You never have to dig through your email. Grab the tickets without all the stress with the Game Time app. You can download this app right now, create an account, and use this code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem this code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
And today's show is brought to you by So Rare. So Rare is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competition and rewards. Head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today, and Locked On Everydayers, thanks for being with us every day this week. We're going to recap the series against the Cardinals. It does start tonight at 4:45 Pacific time. Cards are struggling, so this might actually be a good time for the Angels to get right. You can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
All right, Mike, it's time to get into talking about the bad with this team. And right now, that's something that sticks out to me. We just talked about the record in the good, but there's also a bad element to the Angels' record against 500 teams or better. So teams who are above 500. Listen to this. They went 1-2 against the Blue Jays, who are currently 18-10. They went 1-2 against the Red Sox, who are 15-14, 1-2 against the Yankees, who are also 15-14, and 1-2 against the Brewers, who are 18-10. Now, you could make the argument that a lot of those games were within reach, they were winnable, but poor decision-making, bullpen use got in the way. We'll talk about more of that in the ugly in terms of the decision-making. But just careless errors in the field, Mike, I think has been a big issue for this team. Defensive miscues, Rengifo trying to stretch an obvious single to a double, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That has cost these guys. Now, they have 7 losses in 1-run games, 3 of which were extra inning losses, which is frustrating because that often comes down to the Rob Manfred ghost runner rule, where they put the runner on second. And we call that the Manfred ghost runner because it was his decision to make that happen, right? To speed up the game. And then, Mike, there's instances where they're losing the lead against the Blue Jays and the A's. I remember how crushing it felt when Bo Bichette hit that 3-run home run off of Jimmy Herget.
Yep.
And we lost the lead. We were up 3-1, and then it was suddenly 4-3, and we couldn't come back. So just lots of close games that have really affected us. Now, on the note of scoring and losing close games, Mike, part of the bad with this team is the ability to deliver with runners in scoring position and their lack of doing so. Mike, they're 247 with runners in scoring position as a team. They have a 182 batting average with runners on third and a 191 average specifically with runners on second and third. So that 247 encompasses if they have a runner on first and third, second or third, second, or just third, right? But specifically with runners on second and third, a 191 batting average is not going to get the job done.
Right. Absolutely. And one of those batters that has been struggling is Taylor Ward. And he looked like the Taylor Ward of last year through the first 6 games, but now he's struggling and he's hitting only 208 on the season. They did move him down to like 7th in the lineup. Unfortunately, he looks like the Taylor Ward that jumped from the minor leagues to the major leagues in the last few years. I hope that he hasn't reverted back to that because he is somebody that we need in this lineup. And then somebody else that I think we had a lot of high hopes for when we need in this lineup is Louis Rengifo.
Yeah.
But he hasn't hit above 204 this season, and he already has 4 infield errors. In 118 innings at second base, he has a .967 fielding percentage and a -2 defensive runs saved. 21 innings at shortstop, Johnny, .875 fielding percentage. That's not good. And then 8 innings at third, .667 fielding percentage. So
terrible.
Sloppy defense has really been. That's good. I don't like the defense on this team, and they've really struggled. The Angels pitching has 110 earned runs and 130 runs against, 20 unearned runs. And so that's why the defense, it actually matters. And we're going to go into depth about the defense on tomorrow's show.
Yeah.
Johnny, I'm going to let you talk about Anthony Rendon because you've been a fighter for Anthony, Tony Two Hips. And I love having him back, but he's not the guy that we expected him to be. So talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, the power is not there right now. He doesn't have very many extra base hits. I will say that he's delivering in situations where it matters. So you could, like I said yesterday on the show, you can look at his line and go, oh, what a terrible start to the season. However, if you look at that instance of runners in scoring position, he is getting guys home. He is taking a walk when it matters most, right? So that's important. However, the power's not there right now, Mike. I don't know if he's still dealing with wrist stuff, hip stuff. I know he got hit in the shoulder, so maybe that has something to do with it, but we need that power back because he's batting 4th in this lineup. He's not the bat that Hunter Renfroe is, but at the same time, you want your strongest hitter who's going to hit for some power in that cleanup spot, and he's just not getting it done right now. On the other hand, he's got 4 errors and a .920 fielding percentage in the infield at third base, and we've seen that really affect pitchers like Patrick Sandoval and Reed Detmers, those 4 errors that he's given up. He's got into that altercation on game 1, which resulted in a 4-game suspension, was almost 5, but ended up being 4 after the appeal.
Right.
That's just something that can't happen so early on in the season. So that was a lot of the bad to start the season, was that altercation with the fan.
Yeah. Johnny, let's talk about real quick about Jimmy Herget and then some of the starting rotation. Herget was somebody that we were expecting to rely on this season. And then you mentioned the lead that he blew against the Blue Jays, Bo Bichette hitting that home run. Somebody better tell his dad that his son is hurting the Angels, his former team. He took the loss against the Red Sox on the 14th. He was sent to AAA with a 6.23 ERA and a 6.27 fielding independent pitching. That's the FIP number, what he can control control. And I wonder if the book is out on Herget, John. I wonder if people have figured him out because he seems to not be fooling anybody. I haven't looked at his minor league numbers, but they have skipped over him, bringing him back up when they've brought up other guys. And so I wonder if there's a hesitation to have Herget back on this team.
Now, finally, the starting rotation has not really seemed to hit their stride yet outside of our ace, Shohei Ohtani.
Of course.
We've had back and forth performances from the likes of Detmers and Sandoval, where they're really good one game and then they kind of stink the next game. And you just don't expect that, right? You don't expect that from those two because oftentimes they'll start out the game so well and then they kind of lose control of the game a bit. Now, Sandoval did look good last time out. Detmers did start well against the Brewers, but then sort of fell apart in the fourth inning. And so I think that they'll find consistency. I'm pretty sure that it's just one of those things that you can say, yeah, it's early. And that's why we're reviewing April, right? To take a look at what's been good, what's been bad. Mike, finally, Jose Suarez started out terribly, seemed to fix it against the Brewers. The big question is it going to last? So again, some question marks with the starting rotation. We want to see these guys succeed, but they've got to figure it out. I feel like April is a good month to figure it out because I'd rather this happen now than in July and August when you're really competing for a playoff spot.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. And this is why you should give online therapy a try at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way that we do until we talk through things. And BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on a journey of self-discovery from wherever you are to wherever you hope to be. And it's helpful for learning positive coping skills and setting boundaries and empowering you to be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who have experienced major trauma. It's really for everybody. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Super brief. I've done it before. Super easy. And then if you want to switch therapists because you're not really vibing with the therapist you have, then you can switch and there's no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB.
All right, we got to talk about the ugly that's occurred in April so far. And look, there's this one I feel is like 50-50, but the fact that we lost Logan O'Hoppe so early in the season. Mike, a potential rookie of the year candidate in 16 games and 59 plate appearances. He had 15 hits, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, 4 walks, only 15 strikeouts. He was batting .283, a .339 on base percentage, .547 slugging, and an .886 OPS from the catcher's spot. And that's not to mention how great he had been behind the dish defensively, calling games well with Shohei Ohtani, attempting the back pick at first base, trying to get that runner who's leaning off first base. Man, he just was a stud behind the dish and at the plate as a hitter as well. Shoulder surgery is going to keep him out 4 to 6 months. Logan, the optimist, the Ohoptimist, if you will, he wants to be back this season, and I really hope that we see that. Honestly, I think we have to kind of not figure him into our plans for the rest of the season, given how shoulder surgeries tend to go.
It's a shame because we were ready to fight for him for Rookie of the Year. Anthony Volpe, who? It was going to be Logan O'Hoppe, right? Aaron Loup has been ugly, and he has just been terrible for us. 10 games, 8 innings pitched, a 5.40 ERA. John, that ERA doesn't even let us know about the inherited runners.
Right.
Because every time he comes in, he always gives up the inherited runners. Just feels like he's lost it. He said he was pitching scared against the A's. And we've talked often about, is it time to cut our losses? He's a $7.5 million contract for us this year. And if we cut him, I mean, he's super cheap, right? If we cut him, and we're not going to lose too much. You talked about how he might be fixable, but right now, in the midst of this race that we're in, it may not be worth our time to try to fix him.
Yeah, if they haven't identified what's wrong with him right now, then there's no hope, in my opinion, when it comes to the coaching staff. Mike, Phil Nevin's decision-making has been pretty ugly. We saw
Yeah.
2 instances of Matt Moore to Jimmy Herget that didn't work out because they gave Matt Moore 2 batters and then let Jimmy Herget come in, and then he struggled. And it's like, why didn't you just let Matt Moore finish the inning?
Right.
The usage of Aaron Loup in high leverage situations, we've seen that before. Not letting Carlos Estevez go back-to-back days because of usage and whatnot. Mike, it had us questioning early on who's making the decisions here. I think I said previously that Phil Nevin didn't feel like the Phil Nevin that we saw last year after he took over the job. And then I suggested that Perry Manassian was pulling the strings behind the scenes as Emperor Perry Palpatine, right? And so what we found out, like I said, we're not TMZ, we're not, hard-hitting journalists, but what we did find out from sources that will remain unnamed because we want to respect them, is that there was some issues with the decision-making. We've had moments of, why isn't Matt Moore in right now? Or why no Carlos Estevez? Well, listen to this. Phil Nevin, and this might be obvious to everybody who's watching, but just to confirm it, I'm glad that we're able to confirm that this is what's been going on. Phil Nevin was given a playbook, so to speak, on who to use, for how long, in what innings, and how long they could pitch, how far they could go into a game, whether it was a starter or a reliever. In addition, the lack of stolen bases that we saw was also due to this playbook.
Yep.
Now, because of this, Carlos Estevez, we talked about how he actually spoke up. That was reported, right? And he wanted to pitch in every opportunity that he could. So Carlos Estevez and Perry Manassian had a conversation. Turns out, Mike, it went back to Artie Moreno, right?
Yep. Yeah. And so Artie, get this, listeners and viewers, Artie stepped in and informed Perry that he needs to let Nevin do his job.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blown away when we heard that. And so you might notice that there was a bit of a shift in how Nevin was handling things. There was a moment where Loup did still come in, which kind of was frustrating. Why was he in there against
the Brewers series? Yeah.
I think that was just a Nevin bad decision.
Yeah.
But I noticed that there was a shift, and then we got this information and it confirmed why there was a shift, why suddenly they were stealing bags, all of those things. So this is an interesting little nugget that's taking place inside of the Angels organization. And it also affirms why some of the decisions were just head scratching, John.
Yes.
They were just really kind of strange. Why were they doing that? Well, it makes sense if there was some sort of playbook. And then another head scratcher is Artie Moreno stepped in and actually did the right thing. Yay! Yay! Way to go, Artie!
Mike, remember how frustrated we were after that loss last Monday against the A's?
Yeah.
Just a terrible loss, terrible decision-making
Yeah.
all the way around. That was the result of this playbook because they didn't go to Carlos Estevez to finish out the game. They made Jaime Barria stay in the game. It's like 2-3 innings too long, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can understand how this all came to a head because we were frustrated. I'm sure Phil Nevin was frustrated. Carlos Estevez was frustrated enough to say something.
Yep.
And it made sense because I'm sure Artie looked at Monday and went, that can't happen. We need to let the manager manage this team. And I understand that, Joe Maddon has spoken out about this previously, and we wondered about that. But then all indications were Phil Nevin seemed to have some agency last season. But then to start the season, it seemed like that agency really went out the window. So I'm glad to hear that there's been a shift. I mean, literally the next day you saw Rengifo steal a bag, and then you saw this weekend against the Brewers, Ohtani and Rendon on the move with the double steal. The Angels have been doing really well in that department, by the way. I think Shohei has 5 steals so far this season.
Yep.
So all of that to say, if you noticed a shift after Monday, other than the Aaron Loup coming into a high leverage situation against the Brewers, there's a reason for that. And we're glad, props to Artie for stepping in there because it was a shift that was sorely needed. Now, it does kind of make you think, well, April could have been even better if they had just let Nevin do his job and go to the right people and get away from the Alex Taman analytics, Perry Manassian playbook, that sort of thing. But I'm hopeful that this shift will indicate a stronger team moving forward indicate more success moving forward, and that Phil Nevin will finally be able to have his way.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. It's awesome that the Angels got to 15 wins with all of this chaos kind of happening behind the scenes. And there is baseball today, friends. We get to watch the Angels play the Cardinals at 4:45 Pacific. You can catch every pitch of the hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey friends, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram so you can keep up with the show and keep up with everything that's going on around our favorite team. Hey Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Okay, so there's been a lot of talk about the defense. We talked about it today. Tomorrow, we're actually going to address where the Angels rank defensively overall, and we'll tell you why that matters to this pitching staff. There's an interesting stat that Jeff Fletcher tweeted out that we're stealing and we're sharing with you, and all of that is coming at you tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Love that. I'm looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thank you for being here with us, and we will see you right back here tomorrow for more Locked On Angels.